Right, my lovers, the Man United shirt's out, which can only mean one thing. We're talking about Erik Ten Hag and his Man United squad. Yes, this week the news broke, didn't it, that Erik Ten Hag has become the favourite for the Manchester United job after completing an interview in person on Monday with the Manchester United directors and board. Very exciting stuff. So we're going to be looking at whether or not he's the right guy to take over and exactly who he should keep, who he should sell, who he should loan, who he shouldn't bother renewing on today's episode. Let's start with Erik Ten Hag then. Probably the most exciting coach available on the market right now for Manchester United. I'm sure Manchester United aren't the only super club that are looking for his services. Of course, he's won 5 trophies since he's been at Ajax, 2 Eredivisie titles. People often say in my Twitter feed anyway, well, it's easy to win titles with Ajax, isn't it? Well, not necessarily. Ajax hadn't won an Eredivisie title for 5 years pre-Ten Hag, so shut your mouths. And he's clearly one of the most exciting coaches on the field right now in world football, isn't he? The system he's produced at Ajax is absolutely mesmerising. They are obliterating teams, both in Europe and in the Eredivisie, playing extremely exciting football with a young, talented group of players. And he's done it with 2 different teams now. He's rebuilt, which must be working in his favour if you're Manchester United's directors. But what I will say is he's very much an on-the-field coach. He's a manager that coaches downwards. At Manchester United, the carnage of the club with really poor structures above him, could he do it? Maybe, maybe not. It's a bit of a risk, but it's an exciting risk, isn't it? And the other main candidate seems to be Pochettino at PSG, and some of the treatment of Poch over the last 7 days, in my opinion, has been bordering on ridiculous. I still believe Pochettino is a really good coach. I actually think it's pretty much impossible for any elite coach to succeed at PSG due to Leonardo being there, due to the player power, due to the board, due to a number of different decisions, as is pretty much proven by the fact that 3 Champions League quarter-finalist coaches right now are ex-PSG bosses, and PSG are already out. Thomas Tuchel, pretty much prime example of this, isn't he? Sacked by PSG for failing to win the Champions League, goes to Chelsea, becomes one of the 3 best coaches in world football, and wins the Champions League. However, there are legitimate grievances against Pochettino too. Some might say he hasn't had a truly elite side since sort of 2017. That Tottenham Hotspur side that was just awesome, put up 86 points. Even his Champions League finalist side in 2019, papering over an awful lot of cracks. I didn't think Tottenham were that great that season, and at PSG he's both struggled domestically and on the European front. His domestic side, yes, they're going to win Ligue 1, but right now they look totally fragmented. They look pretty much awful, and that's not necessarily something you could ever have said of Thomas Tuchel's PSG or Carlo Ancelotti's PSG. So I'm still personally on the fence. I'm really interested to hear from you guys at home. Would you go Ten Hag? Would you go Pochettino? I think Ten Hag is like the exciting, new, shiny toy, and that kind of draws us all in. But Pochettino, maybe people forget that he is a very good coach. Nevertheless, I'm going to be playing as if Ten Hag is coach today, and I'm going to be looking at the Manchester United squad and seeing who I would keep, who I would sell, who I would loan, and who is kind of a non-renewal. The contract's up, and I wouldn't be giving them a new one. So as you can see in front of me, I have 33 players. I'm going to try and fly through this because I don't want to be wasting too much of your time. Some of these players are currently out on loan from Manchester United, but I think some of them, those loan players, might well be used in a Ten Hag system. Let's give it a bash anyway, shall we? Starting with David De Gea then. Look, De Gea's contract's up in 2023, but he does have that optional extra year, and I think he is going to be kept. I would keep David De Gea under Erik Ten Hag. However, I want to caveat this with I don't think he's necessarily the right goalkeeper for an Erik Ten Hag system. Anybody who's watched Ajax knows that when they're in possession, Onana flies out of his goal, operates as almost a centre-back in possession, and I think one of David De Gea's biggest drawbacks is his distribution and his ability to get off his line. I think he is almost like a classic old school keeper, a fantastic shot stopper, but in the modern era of goalkeepers, doesn't necessarily fit. So it's going to be interesting to see what Ten Hag does with him. But, you know, he's been probably our player of the season so far this year. I don't think he's going to be sold. One man who I do think will be sold is Dean Henderson. I think Manchester United are going to consider offers for him pretty strongly. Number one, he just can't sit on the bench any longer for the sake of his career, especially if he wants to get into that England World Cup squad. And I also think he's one of the few sellable, valuable assets at Manchester United, having signed a new contract, English tax. I think there's going to be a fair few suitors. Newcastle probably quite interested. Tottenham have apparently been interested in the past. I think a lot of clubs will be interested in Dean Henderson, and I think now is the time to sell. United historically have waited too long, drawn it out. They need to be ruthless this summer. Third choice, Tom Heaton. Yep, I keep him. I just have him upgrade to the second choice goalkeeper at the club and allow Dean Henderson to leave so United can get a fee for him. Aaron Wan-Bissaka up next then, and this is going to be an interesting one given the real importance level that Erik Ten Hag places on fullback involvement. He's very Pep Guardiola-like. He likes to have him either high and wide to really stretch out the play, or inverted, dropping into that midfield half space, which I'm not totally convinced Aaron Wan-Bissaka can do. I think if I was Erik Ten Hag, I'd keep him for a season to see what I could get out of him. I think he's really lacked top quality coaching, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, to take his career to the next level. He's plateaued since he's arrived in terms of footballing ability, so I'd be excited to see what Ten Hag could do with him. Wouldn't be selling him just yet. Diogo Dalot's an interesting one because his contract's up in 2023, so United really need to shit or bust with him, because if you're going to sell him, this is really the last summer you can get big fees for him. I wouldn't know. I've been pretty impressed by Diogo Dalot since Ralf Rangnick took over in a slightly more advanced, dynamic position. I think he's better going forward than backwards, which might suit him in the wide fullbacks that Ten Hag wants to use. I think I would be keeping Diogo Dalot if I was Erik Ten Hag. Another name we can certainly keep, Rafa Varane, Manchester United's best centre-back whenever he's fit, which is, to be fair, quite a lot of the season. He has been so far and away our best defensive asset. It's scary. It's just an obvious keep, isn't it? So let's not waste any more time. The next name then is one that's going to cause an awful lot of controversy. Harold Maguire. Where are we putting Harold Maguire? We're putting him in keep. Deal with it. Look, he's obviously had a really poor season, hasn't he? He has had a poor season. He's gone backwards, and I think the captaincy's weighing on him way too heavy. So if I was Erik Ten Hag, one of my first duties when I came through the door would probably be to take the captaincy off of Harry Maguire and just let him get back to doing what he does best, which is a ball-playing centre-half, which is exactly what Erik Ten Hag likes. I also think that he will be helped by Ten Hag's use of a goalkeeper playing higher up the pitch. Often when the ball's in behind Maguire and he's got to turn and run as soon as he's at his absolute worst, the goalkeeper being up higher will help Harry Maguire in that facet. It'll also be helped when Man United finally get a defensive midfielder to shield in front of him so he doesn't have to fly out of the line. So I'd be keeping Harry Maguire. Yes, he's had a terrible season, but he's clearly going to be at the club. You've got to deal with it. The fee United paid for him, he's pretty much an unsellable asset right now. Deal with it and get the best out of him. Victor Lindelof, another definite keep in my opinion. I think he's actually underrated. I think he's a really good ball progressor. We've seen it a few times this season when he's been allowed to flow forward. He's done a really good job. I take, for example, the Leeds match where he kind of was using these underlapping runs and playing into the defensive midfield positions. And I wonder whether Ten Hag might look to use Victor Lindelof as a right back. An inverted right back that can come in and operate in those defensive midfield positions to allow a player like Luke Shaw to bomb forward. That could be an interesting tact. So yeah, Victor Lindelof's a definite keep. Teden Mengi then, currently on loan at Birmingham, obviously injured. I'd be loaning him straight back out. Axel Tuanzebe, I would be selling though. I think his contract is up in 2023. Of course, we added the optional extra year this year, didn't we? And I think it's time now to cash in on a pretty sellable asset. Not huge fees, but hasn't worked at Villa, hasn't worked at Napoli. And I think there are clubs at the top end of the Championship, maybe even lower echelons of the Premier League, that would be interested in Axel Tuanzebe. So I'd be looking to sell him with an option to buy back. Let's not mess about here. Let's not risk it. Either first refusal or an option to buy and then just, sell him. Another player I'm sadly going to be selling, and I think Erik should consider selling, is Eric Bailly. I think Eric Bailly's a great defender, but he's too injury prone. He's had so many problems now that United, and for the sake of Eric Bailly's career, might just be better going in opposite directions. On his day, when he's fit and firing, he might be one of United's best centre-backs, but it doesn't come round regularly enough. And when he puts together 3 good performances, he picks up an injury, and United need more consistency than that. So for me, it's time to cut United's losses, get a fee for him, get him abroad. Phil Jones is up next then, and I think it's time for Phil Jones to leave now. His contract's actually up in 2023, isn't it? But United just need to do the best for Phil Jones' career, really. He's had so many injuries. I feel so sorry for Phil Jones, but there is a player in there somewhere. It's just not at Manchester United. Luke Shaw, I'm keeping, but he does have a contract up in 2023. United have an option for an extra year. However, under Ten Hag, I'm expecting big things from Luke Shaw. I've spoken about it already on this show. The need for quality fullbacks in the Ten Hag system. He's one of the best ball progressors at the club when he's dribbling with it, Luke Shaw. He's obviously massively down on confidence this year. Those sort of inverted runs that we saw last year, the overlaps outside Marcus Rashford that we saw last year, just haven't been there. I don't know why that is, so I really want Ten Hag to come in, fill him with confidence and get him back to his best. At the moment, it's been a disappointing season for him. Alex Telles then, I would, keep him. I think he's fine as a backup left back. Not anything more than a 7 out of 10, nothing lower than a 6 out of 10, really. Very consistent footballer and absolutely fine to provide cover. I don't necessarily think he'll be a starter under Erik Ten Hag because I'm not sure he's physically good enough. It's going to be a very demanding system. It'll be interesting to see, though, and Man United have got a lot of problems. Telles isn't one of them. Brandon Williams, I would be sending back out on loan as well. He's been okay at Norwich, hasn't he? I think United could try and get him a slightly better Premier League move next season, one that's not quite so muddied in the relegation kind of scrap. Scott McTominay, he's definitely going to be a keeper. I don't think he's going to be the best player in the world in his position, but he's not going to be the worst player in the world in his position. He should be a very solid squad player who's going to go in there and enact exactly what the coach wants. That's why every coach plays McTominay. People say he's not good enough quality, he's poor on the ball. Yes, but he follows instructions to the letter, and that's why every coach that has him uses him. Nemanja Matic is up next then, and his contract's actually up in 2023, and I think he's had an alright season, particularly under Rangnick, but he just doesn't play enough. And I'm looking at the rest of these midfield options, and at 33, I think it's time to be ruthless and move Nemanja Matic on. Good player, but United have to sign top quality defensive midfielders, and if that happens, you don't need Matic anymore. Donny van de Beek, surely the happiest guy in Manchester to see Erik Ten Hag come through the door, right? He's obviously going to be kept because he's worked with Ten Hag extensively, knows the Ten Hag system inside out, and Ten Hag knows how to use Donny. I've seen interviews in the past where he said he's a super dynamic midfielder. I can use him at the base, I can use him as a kind of 8, and I can use him as a 10. Well, let's see it then, because I haven't seen it under 2 coaches at United, and I haven't seen it so far at Everton. I'm excited to see what happens for Donny under Ten Hag. This could be a really good thing for him. Paul Pogba, then. I just don't think he's going to renew. I'm going to put him in non-renewals. He's not going to renew. I can see him going to PSG. He's obviously a sensational player, but it's probably the right time for Paul Pogba to move on. The last 5 years, as he said in an interview this week, being honest, have been extremely disappointing for him. He was hoping, I'm sure, to have the prime years of his career winning Premier League and Champions League titles, and it's not happened. And that's not just Man United's fault. It's a bit Paul Pogba's fault as well. So now's the time to go, let him leave, and that'll be the end of it. I think we need to draw a line under the whole Paul Pogba situation. Fred, up next. Been brilliant recently. Been really, really good, and clearly looks a better footballer in a slightly more advanced role. I think for years he's been shoehorned into a defensive midfield position that doesn't suit him. Much better in sort of a box-to-box 8 role. United need to get an out-and-out lights-out defensive midfielder to sit in there. Allow Fred to play a little bit further forward, maybe alongside Bruno Fernandes. This guy has been hammered for seasons, and I've ripped into him at times, but I think he's actually been good under Rangnick, and I think Ten Hag will really like Fred. Jimmy Garner is up next then. People have been saying, get him back in the Man United first team, he smashed it at Forest. I disagree. I think Jimmy Garner, the best thing for him is another loan move, and this time to a Premier League club. I just don't think he'll get the minutes at Manchester United, and I don't think the pressure should be put on such a young player to revolutionise United's midfield. There's plenty of good Premier League sides that are going to be looking for dynamic central midfielders in the summer that are homegrown and looking to step up from Nottingham Forest, where he has been brilliant now for 18 months. I would be sending him on loan to, let's say Palace lose Conor Gallagher and they want to replace him with a midfielder and Eze playing that 10 role. I just think he needs a Premier League move before he comes into the centre of the park for United. Unlike Jimmy Garner, Hannibal, I would be keeping. I think Hannibal is unbelievable. Every time I watch him play, he is the best player on the park, and there are other players in the slightly more advanced positions, thinking wingers and attacking midfielders, I'm going to be looking to move on. So I would like to see him integrated pretty quickly into Manchester United's pre-season tour and into Manchester United's first team plans going forward. Ten Hag has a history of putting young players into dangerous positions and making it work, and I think Hannibal is one of a few Manchester United youngsters that could break into that first team. Jimmy Garner is too, but I just think that Garner, because of his role as a central midfielder, I think Hannibal is slightly better advanced up the field. That's why I'd loan Garner and keep Hannibal. Bruno, don't need to mess around. Let's be keeping him. Jesse Lingard is a non-renewal. I think Jesse Lingard's definitely going to go. His contract's up, of course, and it's just time, as is Juan Mata. That should have happened a while ago. I don't know whether he's going to retire, he's going to go to the MLS, back to Spain. Whatever's going to happen to Juan Mata, he needs to leave. Although I do love him. I love him so much. Marcus Rashford, there'll be a bit of debate about him in the comments, I'm sure, but I would be keeping him. I still think there's an extremely talented player. Let's not forget that only last season in the Champions League, I think only Haaland and Mbappe scored more goals than Marcus Rashford. 2 seasons ago, he bagged, 20 in all competitions plus? So there's still a player there. He's got no confidence. He's been really poorly coached for the last 12 months. And Man United have a dearth of attacking options come the summer. There's been so many problems, so many contractual issues, problems off the field, that I think it's essential United keep Rashford. I really do. Jadon Sancho, an easy keep. He's going to be lovely to watch under Erik Ten Hag. I'm sure Ten Hag would be buzzing to work with him. Ahmad, loan. It's not been brilliantly successful, that Rangers deal, has it? He hasn't really got an awful lot of minutes, so maybe I'll be looking at another loan move to a club that's going to guarantee him starts. Same can be said for Pellistri. He's looked a little bit better out in Spain, but I'd be loaning him too. As for Elanga, I'd be keeping him. He's had his breakthrough year. He's looked sensational when he's played. A little bit like Scott McTominay. The reason that Rangnick loves him is because he carries out instructions to the letter. Presses really well, counters really well, very neat and tidy on the ball. He's scored goals in crucial moments of the season for United. Elanga is a nailed-on keep. The final 3 names are tough. Cavani, non-renewal. Very disappointing season, given that he was kind of rumbling around this cult hero status last year, scored some huge goals for United, scored that unbelievable halfway line sort of lob in Manchester United's first game back at Old Trafford with fans. But since then, this season's been a mess. A mess. Honestly, what is it, like 2 or 3 appearances in the Premier League, and he keeps ruling himself out, which is really starting to grate on me. Yeah, non-renewal for me. His contract's up. Just let it be over. Let's do Martial next then, and I would be selling Anthony Martial, I think. Ten Hag might be tempted to try and bring him back into the fold, but look, it's not worked at Sevilla. I'm not sure he works hard enough off the ball for an Erik Ten Hag system, and he's another sellable asset for United. United don't have loads of them. They've got to get some money through the door this summer in order to buy the players they want to buy. Henderson's a sellable asset. Bailly's a sellable asset. I think Martial is also a sellable asset. I don't think he wants to be at the club anymore, and I'm not overly convinced the club want to keep him. Especially not if Ralf Rangnick is having a say at boardroom level. I think that relationship's over. The last one then, the toughest of the lot. Cristiano Ronaldo, the man that splits opinions left, right and centre. He's had an amazing goal-scoring season yet again. He is just a behemoth in front of goal, isn't he? And he's dragged United through games at times. He's dragged United through the Champions League group stages. He's dragged United through that game against Tottenham Hotspur where he just scored an unbelievable hat-trick. But United, to progress up the league, need to be a team, not a team of individuals. And I think Cristiano Ronaldo is a problem for Erik Ten Hag. Not necessarily the worst problem to have because he is a goal-scoring machine, but then how does he fit into a system? How does he press? How does he work off the ball? That will be an issue. And people will say, oh, you call Ronaldo a problem. I'm not saying Ronaldo's the problem, but United have a lot of issues. And I think United will be thinking to themselves, how do we get in 2025 up to the level of Liverpool or Manchester City? Not how do they get there next season, because it's just not possible. I'd still keep him. Having said all that, I'd still keep him. Just for the goals. And also a little bit of leadership around the dressing room. But he can't play every minute of every game next season. Alright, so that was my tier list of players I think Erik Ten Hag will keep, sell, loan, and will not renew. Let me know what you think of it in the comments below. Let me know what you think of the Erik Ten Hag news as well. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, hit subscribe. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you later. Bye.